There's nothing wrong with your radio. Do not make an effort to modify the volume. We are commanding the broadcast now. If we desire to make it louder, we will adjust the decibels. When forecasting the difference between reality and the extraordinary, perhaps it may not be as simple as it seems, because the world you think you know may not actually exist. Now, let's begin your journey into the Creepcast Terror Files.
What's up, creeps? It's Jason, the co-owner of Terror Trader, here for another Terror Files. That's right. You're probably looking for where's JDK today, but we sent him on a vacation, well-deserved vacation. So he's somewhere in the depths of California, I believe Hollywood Horror Nights or something crazy like that. But he'll be back here shortly for another typical Terror Files. But I have a guest today. I have a guest that I'm excited about because we're getting close to October here, and or it depends when you're listening to this, but. I like spooky stories around October time frame. I like it all year round, but so I have brought a good friend of ours, Katie, or Madame Macabre, if you want it on Instagram and all the social medias. We'll touch that. But Katie, how are you doing today?
Hey there, I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to share a very scary story with you.
Yes, I'm excited too. So thank you, by the way, for coming on. And this is something that normally we do in Terror Files. We'll do urban legends, we'll do cryptid stories, this and that, but it's Terror Files. So let's do a little ghost stories,
Oh, for sure. And why not? What is better than a true scary story?
So this is what I love about this. So you started telling me this the other day over the counter here at Terror Trader, and it was I was like, oh shit, this is amazing. So I kind of stopped you and I was like, let's do this live. Let's do this on air and tell a story. So I have not finished the entire ghost story that you're getting ready to tell, but I'm very, very excited to hear the rest of it, and I think the rest of our audience is as well. So once again, we're in spooky season here, and we're hitting the October time frame. So guys, put your light a candle, turn out the lights, get next to the campfire, because this is going to be an interesting story here, and that, like you said, a true ghost story, right?
Oh yeah, I kind of wish it wasn't.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, let's set the scene. So tell me, hit me up with everything. We start. We go to the Pacific Northwest, I believe, right? So
yes. So this took place in Washington State 13 years ago.
Okay. All right.
All right, so to give a little bit of context, this is a story that has to do with me and a very old friend of mine.
All right.
And ideally, you're going to look through the perspective of my friend first. I wasn't actually there until 3/4 of the way through, until the crescendo, when it gets just out of control.
Yeah.
Then I was there and started witnessing. So the majority of what I'm going to tell you to begin with is her perspective.
I love it. Okay.
I did not have this perspective to begin with because she was not forthcoming in the very beginning.
For sure.
As most people know, you don't want people to think you're crazy.
Well, that's the problem a lot with seeing, it's like paranormal stories or what I guess I just say any kind of something that's out of the norm. You question your own sanity, right?
Oh,
and then so I'm seeing these apparitions, I'm seeing these shadow people, I'm seeing whatever, but I don't want to tell anybody because, you're going to think I'm crazy, I'm a lunatic, right? So,
oh, yeah. Like, how do you explain that to somebody, especially if they're skeptical?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, okay, hit me up. Let's get into this.
All right. So, to paint the picture, this is 13 years ago. Both me and my friend, we are, I think, juniors in high school at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And she is just like the perfect target in any scary movie for a negative entity to attach to, because she is caught in the middle of the nastiest divorce. Her parents are just, there's nothing amicable about this.
Yes.
And unfortunately, her sister moved out with her mom. She stayed back with her dad, and her dad always had a little bit of a temper, but it escalated during the divorce, and he did take a lot of his anger out on her. So
wow. So the energy in this household is just negative. It's bad, huh?
Yeah, it is not ideal.
Yeah.
Unless you are an entity looking for someone to go after.
Right. Yes, absolutely. All right. So go ahead.
So I know there's people who probably think like, well, if you're good friends, how would you not know?
Right.
I will give the context of, at this point, I was in crazy AP classes. She was in a program where she was going to a trade school and learning to be a chef at the same time as going to school. We weren't even in the same buildings anymore.
Right.
I'll touch on this later. It is relevant to the story, but we had lots of different things going on in our life, and when someone's not talking to you,
Sure.
there's a lot you can miss out on.
For sure.
But from her side of things, she had been feeling pretty down during the parents' messy divorce.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're very familiar with the phases of demonic possession theory.
For sure. Infestation, oppression, and at the end
so
of it...
I think the first one was manifestation.
Okay, or yeah.
And this is sort of where it begins with the manifestation at the beginning of the story. It's storybook, like movie, exactly what you would think it is.
Yes.
Cold spots, thinking you might hear something, seeing something in the corner of your eye. Easy stuff to write off.
Yeah.
So everything that you're like, oh, no, that wasn't me. I'm just stressed. I am stressed. Because a lot of the time it is just stress.
For sure, yeah. And but once again, that can mask, what's really happening, and that's, I think a lot of us do that, it can't be this, it can't be that, because I've had, these bad days, I've had all this stuff, but then maybe something is happening.
Yeah. Well, it continued for about a week, and then we hit that infestation point.
Right.
That's when stuff started to bump up in escalation.
Aye.
It went from just cold spots, feeling like eyes were on you, things like that, to, she told me there was one night she woke up because she heard the sound of claws scratching her bedroom wall above her head.
Damn.
She woke up and looked around, nothing there.
Right.
And then another instance, again, at night. It always happens at night. Funny.
Sure, absolutely. The veil is thinner at night, right? Yes.
Though I should eat my words, because later in the story.
Oh, it comes, okay. Right.
But another night she woke up because she heard someone knocking on the outside of her bedroom door. Mm-hmm. Normally, that might not be anything, but she was in a 2-story house, and her bedroom was facing the backyard on the 2nd story.
That's a problem. Yeah.
And there was no one there.
Oh, my God. Oh, shit.
So it starts ramping up.
Yeah.
And it only gets worse from there.
Oh, all right.
So you know how I mentioned she had this trade school where she was going alongside high school?
Correct.
She was actually training to get certified as a chef. And she was working her butt off. Rather than saying my friend, let's give her a name for the story rather than her real name. We'll call her Dahlia.
Okay.
Now, Dahlia was working really hard to get through this program, to get certified, and to just be a fine dining chef.
Sure.
And she actually got promoted to being the sous chef of the kitchen program, which was awesome for her resume. Not awesome for when you have all this going on, because she had to wake up for school at 3 a.m.
Boy.
Because she got the lovely honor of going into the school kitchen.
Sure.
And doing all the prep work before the cafeteria opened, because the cooking students prepared meals for the students in the other programs in school.
Okay.
So imagine 3 a.m. You are in the Pacific Northwest in a forested neighborhood. It's dark. It's misty. Your dad is upstairs asleep. He's not going to wake up until 6 a.m. for work. So you're all alone, and it is quiet.
Yes.
She starts going downstairs. It's just another groggy morning. She's going to pour herself a cup of coffee. She goes down to the kitchen. Now, her kitchen is connected to the dining room by a little doorway. She's pouring her coffee, and that's when she sees it. Right out of the corner of her eye, she sees a long, bony hand wrap around the doorway.
What? Oh, my God.
I'd be flinging my coffee.
Yes. I would be. Oh, my God. You're kidding. This is crazy.
Yeah, so she sees this hand wrap around.
Yes.
And then followed shortly after, a face peers around the edge of the doorway, like half a face.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking like sunken black eyes, waxy, sallow skin, and then long, tangled black hair. And its jaw is just gaping open with wide eyes staring at her.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Best way to start the day.
Yes. Yeah. What does she do?
She does what anyone would do. She screams and she runs upstairs to get her dad.
Oh, wow.
So she comes flying up the stairs, opens her dad's door, even though he doesn't like being woken up in the morning. She's like, Dad, there's someone in the house. Oh, my God. Because her first thought isn't necessarily, it's a monster, it's a ghost, it's a demon, it's intruder.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a freaky-looking intruder, but an intruder. So her dad flies out of bed, and he's all just like 10 out of 10 stress. He goes running down the stairs in his boxers, and he's just screaming, like looking for an intruder. There's no one there. No windows broken.
Whoa.
No doors open.
Oh, damn.
Everything's locked. And he's the one with the anger issues. Instead of just being like, oh, you're just stressed, there's a lot going on, he screams at her. Like, are you on drugs? Are you on drugs? Are you seeing things?
Sure.
I cannot do this right now. I have so much going on with this divorce. It just tears into her.
Sure.
Which I'm sure you can imagine did wonders for her already delicate mental and emotional state.
Yeah, absolutely. And which also probably fed into what's there at the house as well. Like, just feeding this. Okay. Oh my God.
And so this was right about the point where it started to work its way into, I believe the next phase is oppression.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And it started to impact her. Now, mind you, I was not seeing her as frequently as we used to when we both went to the same school together.
Right.
But I would still see her occasionally. She was starting to change at this point.
Really?
She was not the cheerful, funny person that I had known since I was like 6.
Yeah.
She was very emotionally thin and frail sometimes. She wouldn't open up, she wouldn't talk, and she would get so angry sometimes. And she just uncharacteristic anger,
which is so classic oppression. If you want, if you, like I said, looked into that once again, it's that's what usually happens. Once suicidal thoughts, anger issues, all types of stuff, and wow. So this sounds like this is a classic case.
Oh yeah. Well, the most startling thing I think was that she started to have blank memory patches, and one in particular, I was actually there for.
Yeah.
This was the last time that I went over to her place before things hit the crescendo.
Sure.
We'd both been busy, but we made time. I was going to go over to her dad's house to hang out with her for a while. And it was fine. We were in the living room. Things seemed normal. I mean, she was quiet and she was a little more withdrawn,
right.
but she was still there. She was still my friend. And I noticed the change, but I also knew what she was going through with her school and her parents' divorce. And I'm one of those people, I will absolutely be there if you reach out. But I also didn't want to jab and pry, like, tell me what's going on when you're already going through a whole lot.
Right.
So I didn't pry. But that's when her dad comes home. Like, he gets home from work, he's in a bad mood. And it's awkward when you're the friend and you can tell they got the angry parent. You're just like, I'll just sit here quietly and do nothing.
Right.
He comes in and he storms into the kitchen and he sees that she had forgotten to unload the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. He just goes off. He starts yelling at her for being lazy, and she always does this. She always forgets it. And I look over at her, and she just gets this weird, like, blank expression washing over her face. And she just starts screaming at him, like,
what?
Savagely angry. Like, I've never seen her face contort in rage like that before. All over the dishes.
Really?
And I'm sitting here, like, so awkwardly, like, what is going on? Because I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't have to take this, and he storms back out and like, you know what, let's go upstairs to your room. It's awkward.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
So we go upstairs to her room, and then when she's had a moment to, like, calm down and get back to herself, I'm like, hey, everything okay? What was that about? Like, that was some pretty high levels of anger down there.
Sure.
Are you okay? And this was what got me. She looked me dead in the eye and was like, what are you talking about?
What?
She could not recall.
She don't remember it?
The last thing she remembered was us being in the living room and then being upstairs.
Hey, oh my God.
That entire chunk of time, she could not recall it.
Oh my God.
And that's when
crazy.
I was like,
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things of how much do you pry?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is all still kind of like, not foreign, but a little bit weird to you, I imagine, right?
Yeah,
like,
it was weird to me, but I was also a teenager in high school.
So. Sure.
And I'm like, how do I handle this? There's hormones and there's divorces and there's a lot going on.
Yeah, good call.
But that was the big thing that I remember, and I was there for, and her face blanking out, getting angry, and then forgetting about it entirely. That was really weird to me, but I'm like, oh boy.
Sure.
And then it basically got to the point where she was not comfortable being in that house for long periods of time. She started looking for excuses to spend less and less time there. So she'd go to school earlier and she'd stay there later.
Sure.
Just less and less time. So she wouldn't be there. Unfortunately, her school would no longer be a safe haven for much longer.
Oh.
It gets worse.
Okay, yeah. Jeez.
This is the next escalation.
Okay.
So one morning, she gets ready, crack of dawn, goes into school. Now she gets in there, and it's completely dark, because she's responsible for starting up for the morning.
Right.
She gets into this big industrial kitchen. It's pitch black. She puts her bag down on the table. She turns around to dig for her keys. And then all of a sudden, it's not pitch black anymore. There's some light spilling in.
Okay.
She looks over her shoulder, and the giant walk-in meat freezer is wide open.
Which it wasn't before.
It was not open.
Oh, boy. Oh.
They would not leave that freezer open. They locked it because it was one of those heavy-duty ones.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Wide open. So she turns over and looks at it. She just gets a bad feeling in her gut.
Yeah.
And something zips in front of it. She sees the silhouette of something shooting in front of it.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.
I can leave at that point.
My soul would depart my body.
Yes, my God. Holy, okay.
So she goes flying for the light switches and this and that. And I'm like, why didn't you turn the light switches on immediately? What's wrong with you? And she's like, it's early and my eyes hurt from the light. Give me a break.
Oh, my God.
Like, okay,
God.
whatever. She hits those lights. She's like, okay, maybe there's a student who broke in here and is trying to steal food.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, still trying to find a logical explanation for what's going on. I get that, yes.
Has that moment where she's like shaking and she's trying to get herself together.
Yeah.
So she looks around the kitchen, no sign of anyone. The fire escape, like the emergency exit that goes out to the back, that's closed.
Yep.
Just everything is locked up. She's the only one in there. She looks through like the order window that looks out to the cafeteria. Nobody there. Completely empty. And she's like, this is not good. This is not good.
Yes, this is not good at all. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, she's like, you know what? I just have to get my prep work done because give it like 45 minutes and chef will be in.
Sure.
More kitchen staff will be in. And students will start coming in for breakfast.
Right.
So she's like, okay, I can do this. So she tries her best to push it out of her mind and she just gets her work done. And before she knows it, chef pulls up there, more people come in, and she's finally starting to feel relief because, I don't know, there's just that comfort that comes with other people being there.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not something why, just anything. You see why people go to haunted houses with groups of people, right? There's that comfort, right? I get that. So I would be the same way. Honestly, I would, especially if that meat freezer was open. So, yeah.
Oh, God,
Okay, so what does she do? So what does she tell anybody at this time or nothing?
She's still keeping it to herself because at this point she is firmly questioning her sanity. She's thinking she is having a mental break and she is like, I can't handle this on top of anything else. If I say this to anyone, they're going to just give me a grippy sock vacation.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, my God.
So she keeps it to herself, thinking that she's having a mental breakdown. And then chef comes in, orders start coming in, and she's like, okay, I'm calming down. I'm getting back in my groove. She gets the orders made, and then she brings the ticket up to the order window. She looks out into the cafeteria. Now, it's one of those big school cafeterias. Yep. Tables are spotted all the way from the back of it till up to, like, I want to say maybe 10 feet from the pickup window.
Gotcha.
And there's a speckling of students here and there, not too many yet because it's still very early.
Sure.
But she spots way in the back, at the very end table, that thing from the kitchen is sitting there.
What? At
the table, looking at her. It's this gaunt, sallow-skinned woman.
Are you kidding? So it's a woman?
Yes, long, tangled hair. And see, here's an interesting thing to me. It kind of, as she described it, resembled like Kayako from The Grudge. At this point in time, 13 years ago, The Grudge was still pretty recent.
Yes, absolutely.
We went to the theaters and we saw it together.
Right.
That movie was her biggest fear. She was so scared of that monster. To this day, she's still scared of that monster.
Really?
Interesting that is how it decided to show up.
Yeah. No, it manifests itself into one of her biggest fears. I get that. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it's sitting there at the far table, and here's the crazy thing: there's other students in there. No one seems to be able to see this thing.
Yeah.
And now she's really questioning her sanity because there's other people, no one else is seeing it, and it's looking at her from the far end. And she's like, I am having hallucinations now. That's just what I need.
What the fuck?
But chef comes up to her and he's like, hey, we got orders. We gotta keep up before the breakfast rush overcomes us. And she goes back. She's like, okay, makes another order, brings the ticket up to the front, and that thing has moved a table closer.
Oh, hell no. Oh, my God.
You can see the way this is going.
Yes. Holy shit.
She keeps doing orders, and she keeps coming back to the window, and it keeps getting closer.
Nope.
Yeah, it's getting to the point. She's feeling her heart rate race.
Yeah.
She's getting those cold sweats. She's starting to be on the edge of a panic attack, but
Sure.
she's like, I have to hold it together because school is all I have. I don't need them to demote me or something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
She's got one ticket left.
Okay.
She goes, she gets the order together, she brings it to the window, and it is now at the closest table. So close that she can see all the dappling and the distortions in its sickly skin. It's close enough to see the details.
What the? Are you kidding me?
And it's a table that's full of other students, and none of them are seeing
No one
it.
recognized. No one noticed.
No one sees it. Because at this point, it's far enough into the day. It's bustling. It's full of people. No one sees this thing. So,
Aye.
so she ends up having a little bit of a meltdown.
Sure.
She freaks out. She runs out through the door that leads to the alley outside of the kitchen.
Right.
And then Chef comes after her, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, I'm having a moment." And he, of course, he's a compassionate man, and he knows her situation at home. He's like, "Clearly you've got a lot on you, and extra
Sure.
responsibilities is not helping. Okay, kid, how about you go home?
Right.
You just take the rest of the day, and you just, take the day for you. You calm down, and, we can try again tomorrow."
Sure.
But going home is not what she needs.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it any better at home? Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's not about to tell him, like, "Hey, I think there's a demon following me."
For sure. Yeah, no, that's the quickest way out of there, because you're not going to believe that, right?
Oh, yeah. Especially they weren't in her shoes for the weeks that this has been happening.
Sure, absolutely.
And she's not been talking to anybody about this, so it seems out of nowhere, and it seems really extreme.
Right.
So she drives herself home, and she gets home, and she sees her dad's car is there, which he shouldn't be home from work yet.
Right.
So she goes in, wondering what's up, and he comes running up to the door, and he is livid. He is shouting and hollering and red in the face, and she's like, "What is going on?"
Right.
And he goes, "I am paying way too much for you to attend this special school, for you to be skipping class."
What?
She's like, exactly, that's her response.
Yeah.
I literally just came from school.
Sure.
And I'm not feeling well, so Chef sent me home.
Right.
And he's red in the face, and he's calling her a liar and accusing her of all these things again. And she's like, "Dad, will you just tell me? Tell me what is going on."
Right.
And he said that when he was getting ready for work in the morning, 6 a.m., he's actually running late that morning, so he's running around. He sees her, or what he thinks to be her, sitting in the dining room, her back to him, just facing the corner of the dining room, saying nothing.
What?
And he's shouting at her and talking to her, and to his mind, she's ignoring him. Whoa. But he is so late, he has to get going, and he's like, he told her he was going to have words with her when he got back.
Sure. Oh my God.
This is like a multifaceted point where, on the one hand, she's terrified.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm not crazy because someone else is seeing this.
Yeah.
But now it means it's real.
Sure. It's like the validation you kind of want, but you don't want at the same time, right?
Yes.
You kind of wish this was all in your head, but now that Dad's seeing this, this is not in your head. This is happening.
Yeah, and she's trying to explain to him, "It wasn't me. I was at school. Dad, there is something wrong with this house. There's something here. The thing I told you about the other day, it's that. It wasn't me."
Yeah.
And he just doesn't believe her. She goes, "Dad, call the school. Call my chef. He will tell you himself I was there and he sent me home." And he's like, "You know what? Fine, I will." So he calls up the school, and he's in the other room talking.
Yeah.
And then she says, a couple minutes pass. He comes in, and he's kind of like pale and like very flat faced.
Sure.
He just hangs up, and she's thinking for a second. There's like a glimmer of hope. He's going to be on my side. I have an ally. I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are some people that are so attached to the idea of having to be skeptical to everything.
Sure.
Even if they see something in their face, they're just going to I'm going to just block that out.
Yeah.
He told her, "You know what? I'm very stressed out by this divorce. I was up late last night. I had a couple beers. I was probably still a bit drunk in the morning.
Aye.
It's all getting to me, and I'm seeing things. So I am going to take Rachel, his girlfriend at the time. We're going to go camping this weekend, and I'm just going to unwind, because that's all this is. And that was all he said, and he went off and just kind of left her to stew in that.
Sure. There's some people who never, they cannot ever look outside the box, I would say, right? You know, we're so trained to find something that's, you know, a logical explanation, a scientific explanation for things. So when something doesn't match these scientific explanation, or, you know, checks in the box, it's denial. It'll still come in, right? So, so I get it. I kind of get it.
And I feel that because to a degree, I think we should always look with a degree of skepticism.
Yes.
Most of the time, there's going to be a rational explanation.
For sure.
But when you run into something where you're like, I cannot figure this out, sometimes you got to be a little bit more open-minded. You
have to. Yeah. I'm right with you. I mean, I deal with it in the store here all the time and whatnot. For those who are out there watching a lot of the YouTube stuff that we put out for the security camera footage, I try to get a scientific explanation, but when I can't, but I'm open to that. I'm thinking maybe there is something here. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people aren't like that. So
yeah, and in this case, it's just sad because whether you believe it or not, you've got a teenage child in the house who's clearly going through something, and your response is, well, I'm stressed out, so I'm going to go camping.
Okay. All right. So
I'm taking my girlfriend and leaving you here when you say there's something in the house. Dad of the year.
Yes. Yeah. So he leaves.
Yeah. So she ends up going to school that Friday.
Right.
And basically, he doesn't say anything to her, so she doesn't know when exactly he's leaving.
Right.
She goes to school that Friday, and mercifully, nothing crazy happens at school.
Right.
She gets back home. Her dad's car is gone.
Okay.
He didn't say anything to her. Didn't even say goodbye. She goes in. She only knows he's gone because he just left a note on the counter that said "gone camping."
Okay. Wow.
So that was
Jeez.
Fantastic.
Right.
And I mean, in hindsight, maybe I'm being a little harsh on him. Maybe he too was being like in the oppression phase.
Could be.
It could have been taking an already kind of angry, but
for sure
he had a temper. But I wouldn't say he was always mean.
Okay.
So it might have been affecting him too. So I'll just put that in there because I don't want to fully just be like. I mean, what he was doing was awful, but there might have been more to it.
Okay. All right.
So he's out of the house. She's there alone, and she's like, I really have to do this all weekend. Okay. And in hindsight, you know, I had asked her after the fact, why didn't you just ask to come over for the weekend?
Right.
And she's just like, I wasn't thinking clearly. I was freaked out, and I was just so caught up in that everyone's going to think I'm crazy, and I need to get through this. I can do it on my own. I can do this.
Right.
So she tries to calm herself down. Now, for the rest of the story, because we're getting close to the part where I come in.
Yes.
To give you an idea of the layout of their house, you go in the front door, and the ground floor is kind of like a loop.
Okay.
You get there, you go right in through the front door, and there's a staircase that goes up to a landing to the second floor. If you go to the left, you'll go to one of the sitting rooms.
Gotcha.
There's a den, and then a kitchen. It wraps around to the dining room, then it wraps around to another sitting room.
Okay.
So she goes to the den to watch TV. The den happens to be located right underneath her bedroom. So she's there. It's later at night. She's watching TV. She's doing all right.
Yeah.
Until she hears footsteps above her.
What?
In her bedroom.
Oh, God.
And it's not just like something that could be written off. It is heel toe, like shoes are on.
For real. Wow. And she knows she's alone. She
knows she's alone.
Oh, no. Oh, my God, no. Okay.
Yeah. And she's like, you know, normally people would freak out and think it's an intruder, but at this point, she's like, I know it's something messing with me, and I cannot give it the satisfaction.
Okay. Yeah.
So she sits there. She tries to ignore it. She turns the volume up on the TV and just keeps watching the TV. Then, bam, 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 it starts stomping.
Oh, my God.
Clearly, it didn't like being ignored.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Jesus.
So at this point, she turns off the TV. She stands up. She's like, you know what? I'm going to gather my bearings.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go see what's going on because I need to just stand up for myself.
Okay.
So she goes upstairs. She's like very scared, but she's like, I got to do this. Gathers the last of her courage. Goes into her bedroom. Nothing's there. But it feels terrible in there.
Yeah.
It's icy cold.
Yeah.
And it just feels malicious.
Oh.
She's looking around. Nothing's out of place. And then one of the books on her shelf starts tap, tap, tap. It's not flying out like in the movies. It's very intentional. It's methodically being tapped out until it falls to the floor.
Oh, my God.
And then another. And then another. One by one, methodically, very gently,
Jesus,
being knocked out of her shelf. That was her breaking point.
Yeah,
so
me
much
too.
for the courage. She scrounged up. She flipped out. Mind you, at this point, she was just in her pajamas. She
Right.
just had her phone in her hand. She ran all the way downstairs, out the front door, and sat on the porch. She couldn't be in the house. This is Washington State in November. It was freezing.
Yeah.
Not an ideal situation. She didn't even have shoes on.
Wow.
So at this point, Dahlia decides she needs to call me.
Okay.
So this is where my first-hand experience comes in. So I'm at home. It's about 11 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just winding down in my own room, and my phone rings. And I say, it's Dahlia. I'm like, that's late for her to be calling.
Yeah.
Answer the phone, and I can't even make out a word she's saying. She is just bawling.
Really?
Complete hysterics. And I'm like, Dahlia, what's going on, honey? I can't understand you. And all I can get her to say is, something in the house. I can't be here alone.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just tell my dad.
Yeah.
I'm going to come pick you up, and you're going to come over here and you can explain. And she's still in hysterics, and she's like so angry and this and this and that. And like saying, oh, it's angry, oh, it's aggressive. And I'm like, I have no context.
Sure.
All the stuff I just told you,
Sure.
I had none of this information.
Gotcha.
So it's out of the blue. I'm just getting this hysterical phone call. And I'm not entirely sure what to think. At this point, part of me is wondering if it's not like a huge blow-up fight with her dad.
Right.
Because I didn't know he was out of town.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, did he just like go off the deep end and throw her out?
Yeah.
Like,
No, that could be, I got
so
yeah.
I run down the hall and like I knock on my dad's door and I'm like, hey, something is going on with Dahlia. She's not okay. Is it all right if I bring her over here?
Right.
And he's like, well, yeah, of course. He's
Sure.
he's a very compassionate man.
Yes.
So he didn't even think. He's like, well, first of all, are you going to be safe going over there?
Smart. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I think she got in a big blowout fight with her dad, and it's just not good. And he knew about the situation there. So he's like, yeah, go ahead and bring her over. She can just stay the night. In fact, pack a bag. She can stay a couple nights if she wants.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get her. So I drive over, and fortunately, I was only like 12 minutes away from her house. So it wasn't a long drive.
Sure.
But I pull up there. It's like so cold that the grass has started to get frosty.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you can see her breath. It's freezing. And she is sitting there. It's just this pathetic picture of this poor teenage girl sitting on the front porch, bare feet, just like head in her hands, sobbing on the front porch in the freezing cold.
Wow. She had to be terrified. When you're out there, and I can feel the cold right now. I know what you're talking about, and you have to be petrified of what's inside that house to be out there in that weather.
Being in freezing temperatures is better than whatever's in there.
Yeah. Wow.
So I come running up, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? And then I noticed, I was about to ask if it was her dad. Her dad's car isn't there.
Sure.
I'm like, where's your dad? It's like, he went camping. Oh, okay. So who's in the house then?
Yeah.
She goes, what's in the house? I'm going like,
now what are you thinking at this point? You're like, what?
Excuse me?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because now I'm starting to get the better picture of what I signed myself up for.
Sure.
I'm like, please explain. And she's trying to get her words out, trying to calm herself down, but she's still in that high emotional state where it's tough. And I'm starting to just get a picture that whatever's in there is some kind of maybe a ghost or an entity or just something is in there.
Sure. Whatever
it is, she made it clear that it wasn't human.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, there's something in there. And she's really upset. I didn't know if it really was haunted. I didn't know if she was having a mental break. I didn't know if it was any number of things.
Right.
All I knew is that when somebody is that emotional, you got to be the calm one.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Someone has
if
to.
we're both freaking out, nothing is getting solved.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, I have to enter crisis management mode.
Right.
I got to be the one to make the decisions.
Sure.
I went, okay, you know what? I'm here with you. What we're going to do is we're going to go inside. And the moment I say we're going to go inside, she's starts falling apart. I'm like, no. We're going to go inside. I'll go first. I'm going to go down the entire downstairs. I'm going to turn on every single light.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like a lighthouse in there. And then we're going to go upstairs, you're going to grab a bag, and you're going to pack enough stuff for a couple days. You can either stay with us, or you'll stay with us tonight.
Right.
But if you want to stay longer, you can stay with us, or we can call your grandparents. Either way, you'll have a place to stay.
Sure.
Just pack your stuff, and we'll go. And it took a moment, but I finally got her to calm down, because I was like, girl, you can't, you're just in your pajamas.
Yeah.
You don't have your phone cord. You don't have
Right.
anything.
Yeah. Sure.
So after some convincing, she goes back inside. Me first, of course.
Right.
I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I
Yeah.
open the door, and I take that first step in, and I'm like, oh no,
You could feel something?
this is for real, for real.
Hey.
I, to this day, have not experienced something quite so strong.
Really?
I felt like I was walking through like a wall of water. It was that dense of just a nasty energy. Like, your gut ties up, and you have that human instinct that tells you, get out, it's dangerous.
Right.
That it was going off. Every single nerve was firing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But I couldn't let her know that, so I had to just keep a jagged smile, like,
Smart.
okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna do this. And I wasn't happy about it, but I'm like, I can't let her know that I'm going, oh my God.
That's awesome.
That's not going to help
Yeah.
anyone. That, and, you know, again, I was just a teenager, but I always loved scary movies and
Right.
like demonology and all these
Sure.
things. But I was spooked, but I'm like, from my understanding, freaking out and being scared and vulnerable is the quickest way to have a bad ending.
It's food for whatever entity is there, once again, in human spirit, whatever, you know what I'm saying? That's they want the more negativity, the more fear. Yeah, that's
for sure.
that's what they feed on. So
The best way you can get out of that situation is to just give it no reaction whatsoever.
Right.
Is just ignore it.
Sure.
It's easier said than done.
Yes.
But in an ideal world,
Right.
if you need to be in a situation where you're around something like that, ignore it, get what you need, and leave.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I go in, and I'm like, oh God, I have a bad feeling.
Sure.
So I walk in that front door, and that just house is... I'd been there so many times since I was a kid.
Right.
I knew her parents. I'd been there. It did not feel like the same place.
Right.
Even from between the time I went when she had that little blackout moment and
Right.
now, it was night and day. It just felt like a horror movie. It was awful.
Oh wow.
And it's so dark. And it's so dark, and you're surrounded by trees, and just the whole atmosphere is
Sure.
does not help. So I'm like, I'm going to do what I told her I was going to do. So she's standing by the front door, refusing to go any further, just over there sniffling. And I'm like, okay, I got to do the thing I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, here I go. I flip, obviously get the foyer light first.
Right.
And then I go room by room, the entire loop. Every single light switch, lamp, pull string, you name it. Any light in the house, I was physically turning it on.
Right.
I made sure every light was blaring. And at the side of the lights, she was feeling better.
Sure.
So I finish my loop. I come back towards her. Now I got to paint a mental picture here.
Okay.
I'm walking up towards her. I am facing the stairs. Her back is to the stairs because she's facing me.
Right.
She doesn't see this. I'm trying to talk to her, saying, it's okay, I got every light, but something catches my eye. I look up the stairs to the landing, and there is a shadow figure leaning over the landing, looking at me.
Really?
I linger for a second. She's like, what? I'm like, nothing. She did not need to know that was there.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, internally,
Yeah.
But I'm like, don't scream, don't scream. You keep a smile on your face.
Sure.
And it backs away, and I see it move a little bit down the hallway and go into her dad's room and close the door.
Oh hell no. Really?
Physically close the door.
How are you not? I would. Oh boy. I don't know how you stayed in that whole house at that point.
The only thing keeping me going, I think, was the adrenaline. If
Yeah.
it were me
Yeah.
in my situation, I'd be melting down. But
Sure.
I think when it's your loved one or friend or
Yeah.
someone you care about,
Good point.
you're able to like almost dissociate from yourself and like, okay, I am the one holding this together. If it was me, though, I'd be gone.
Sure.
I'd
No,
have already
absolutely.
left.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see that shadow figure once and bye.
God. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay.
Which is interesting because I'm particularly creeped out by shadow figures, so
Sure.
that's what I saw.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm
See
like,
what this thing's
okay.
doing now. I do.
Yeah, that's the one that I don't care for.
Sure. Wow.
So I'm like, oh my God. And of course we have to go up there because that's where her stuff is.
That's her stuff. Yeah, her room's up
So
there.
I don't tell her anything. I'm like, okay, the lights are on. We're going to go upstairs. I'm going to hit the lights in the hallway and we're going to go into your room, and you're going to pack your stuff.
Right.
I get up there, and I try everything in my power. Ignore that door. Don't even look at it. Don't
Yeah.
think about it. Just that door doesn't exist. I don't know. I can't read. So we don't look at the door. I pass through. She hasn't seen it, so, 'cause again, she was in such a delicate state. She would
Right.
have completely just fallen apart.
Sure.
So she gets into her room. We're both in their room. We close the door behind us. We're like, okay, we're in an enclosed space together now. We can't see everything else going on. It's a little bit more comfortable.
Sure.
She starts packing her stuff into her bags, throwing a couple of days' worth of things in.
Yeah.
And she does it as quick as possible. Because I'm like, you know what? If you forget something,
No big deal.
it's fine.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We will figure it out. Get your essentials. Okay, she got it. Zipped up the bag. We open the door. We go back out in the hallway. She closes the door behind her, and I can tell that she's feeling a little bit better. She's like, I accomplished something. I got my stuff.
Right.
I'm like, okay. We step out into the hallway, and I spot that door to her dad's room is open again.
Oh, God, really?
And I'm like, don't let it show on your face. Do not let it show on your face.
How did you not? This is crazy.
I'm internally screaming.
Yeah.
I'm internally having a meltdown here.
Oh, my God.
I think my skills, my family likes to scare each other. We like hide and jump out and scare.
Sure.
So I don't like giving them the satisfaction. So I've spent
Gotcha.
years training to not let it show on my face because I don't want to give them that.
Yeah, this is the big moment, though.
I'm like, finally,
How
years at the
hell
academy
did you do
training.
that? Yeah, this is, oh, my God.
So I'm like,
Okay.
"Whew."
At that point, when you saw that, what'd you do?
I just was like, okay, let's go down. Let's go. I just ignore it again.
Yeah.
I just don't even look at it. I don't want to see whatever's there. I'm not even going to give it attention.
Right.
We start walking back down that little hallway
And
towards
she
the
hasn't
landing.
noticed at
She
all.
hasn't noticed because
Okay.
she hadn't been paying attention to
attention.
that door because I was doing everything in my power not to look at
Gotcha.
it on the way.
Gotcha. No, smart.
So she's like looking at the front door, like
Yeah.
the end line, the finish line right there.
Yeah.
And it can't be that easy because we get to the top of the landing and she starts melting down again because every single light that I had turned on was off. It was pitch black downstairs. Yeah. This is where my pulse really started speeding up here. This is where it started feeling a little too real for me.
Oh, my God.
Because I'm like, shadow figures, whatever, here and there. Maybe the stress is getting to me.
Sure.
And maybe, like, I'm just seeing, like, I think it's pareidolia where you're,
Right.
you know, but,
Yeah. No, this is, I mean, when the lights are, you physically turned every light on in the bottom floor, right?
Yeah.
And now they're all off?
they're all off. So I'm thinking, sorry, the word I was looking for, matrixing. When you're matrixing, I think your brain,
Yeah.
when you're seeing shapes in the dark.
Sure.
I was like, oh, I'm just matrixing. But I get to that point at the top of the landing. All those lights are off. My heart rate is now pounding because I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is actually genuinely really scary.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
I'm like, okay. She's melting down. I'm like, okay, I'm going down first. I kind of go down the stairs pretty quickly.
Sure.
I hit that light. And the light from the foyer, because it's a circular layout, it kind of spills out to a majority of the downstairs. And then she follows me down. And I'm like, okay. And then I get a bad feeling. I look over my shoulder. And she's freaking out again because there's like a shape in the darkness that like zips away back towards the den. And at this point, I don't know what is wrong with me at this point,
Right.
because this is something that to this day she still like laughs about because she's like, that was weird. I got mad.
Yeah.
I decided, I don't know, maybe I converted the terror into anger.
Okay.
But I got mad, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing around anymore.
Sure.
I'm not going to put up with this. So I go charging in that direction after it.
Wow.
And she's just like, no. I'm like, no, I'm not going to play around with this thing. On the coffee table, there's like one of those like decorative, gigantic, like King James Bibles that are hardback cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
I pick it up, and it's like my melee weapon.
Hey, I like it. Oh, my God.
I'm just blunt force. I've got an object here.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that would be hitting a specter, but you know what? I'm
Whatever.
Like, I feel better. I'm
What do you
armed.
know at that point? You're just like, I'll take anything. Yeah.
And then I walk over towards the den where this thing had slipped into.
Yeah.
And there was a shadow figure back in that room. I can still vividly see it. Because
Really?
I'm like, ugh. It was like very tall, kind of like between 6 and 7 feet, too tall. Its head was almost brushing the ceiling, and it was really like long and lean and jangly, like its joints didn't look right. It was very spindly and skinny. And at this point, I'm like, oh, like that moment anger I had starts to waver, and my response I chucked the Bible.
Oh my God. I would have done the same thing.
I'm like, I'm not gonna chant things at you. No, my first thought is, so I throw this like 10-pound.
Oh my God. Oh shit.
I fling it. I turned it into a projectile weapon.
Yeah.
I launch it, and it clatters against the back wall, and boom, it's gone.
Really?
It's just gone. It's just regular darkness.
Okay, mental note, buy some big-ass Bibles. Okay, got you. Okay.
Blunt force.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you got the message across. Okay,
Sure,
we're good.
sure.
And then, like, mind you, I'm still, like, wildly shaking because you have that moment, that little burst of, like, bravado. I'm like, if this is a scary movie, that would be the part where I'd die. They just got me.
Oh, my God.
But I'm like, okay, we go back towards the front, and she opens the door. We get out of there. We lock it behind us. And we left that foyer light on. I'm like, I don't care. Her dad left her in this situation. He can deal with the foyer light being on when we get back.
Yeah.
So we get in, we get to the car, I have her get her stuff in, I get in on my side, and I start messing around, getting stuff ready to go.
Sure.
And her driveway was kind of on a hill, so we're angled upward.
Gotcha.
I'm busy getting the car ready to go, and she's in the passenger seat, and then I just hear her scream.
Really?
And I jolt, because I'm like, what is going on? And I look up at what she's looking at. Her house has one of those windows that's like way up high on the second story that faces out front.
Yes.
There's a figure, like the silhouette of a figure pressed against the window looking out at us.
Oh my God.
And the thing about that is that's not a functioning window. That's one that's lifted up. So that one's probably like 15 feet above the ground.
Yes.
So someone couldn't just be standing there. And I'm like, you know what?
How fast did you pull out of there?
Oh, I broke the sound barrier.
I bet.
I tore out of there, did a burnout. I was gone.
Oh my God. Oh, especially in like a window with like an vaulted ceiling or something like that. You know, there's nowhere to stand. There couldn't be a human doing this.
There, yeah. That was the moment where I'm like, okay, we're done here.
Okay, yeah, I don't blame you at all. I would peel it out of there and I would have hauled ass home. Yeah,
that is a display window. That is. So we tear back home. It's a short drive.
Sure.
We get back to my place. My dad's still up because he was concerned and he was waiting.
Right.
And we get there, we get in, and I'm like trying to find a way to explain it to him without like sounding completely bonkers.
For sure.
So I kind of leave out the part about like chasing after it and throwing a book at it.
Smart. Dads don't like to hear that.
I don't think he would have liked to hear that. So that part I strategically left that out and was just like, there's something bad in that house. It's some kind of malicious entity.
Sure.
I don't know what it is. I know this sounds crazy. And like my dad's an engineer, so he's very scientific, but he also, fortunately, usually when it comes to ghosts, he's a little more like,
Right.
But he does actually believe in malicious spirits and like demonic things.
For sure.
He takes that stuff seriously.
Gotcha.
And so he's like, you know what? I'm not gonna make you feel bad about this. I believe that kind of stuff is out there.
You get two witnesses, once again, it was, so I get it if you went over and, she's freaking out, but you didn't see anything. Okay. But if both of your daughter, who is a sane person that all of a sudden comes back to tell you a story, there's something to this. There is something to this for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. So at this point, I'm starting to crack a little bit because we're safe. There's an adult there. I don't have to be the crisis management person, so I'm starting to alongside with her.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, you know what? I get it that's horrible and scary, but you're going to be safe here. Like you were in an environment where you were vulnerable. This house, it's got solid foundations.
Sure.
It's a home. It's positive. Yep. It's loved. It's protected. Like it cannot get in here. It can't get you.
Right.
And that calmed me down. That calmed her down a bit. And then we're like, okay, we feel better. We think we can like go to bed. And then after all that adrenaline, like you're tired, you're crashing.
Sure.
So we stay out in the living room. We actually have like a pull out bed. And this is ground floor. We had a Rambler, so it was just a 1-story house.
Right.
My childhood home. And we stayed in that front living room.
Yeah.
Pulled out the bed. And I actually stayed down there with her.
Sure.
So, like she does not need to be
I don't blame you. I would have yeah.
So we're on that rollout bed, and I just crash. I fall asleep pretty
Adrenaline
easy.
jump.
No
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, for sure.
And she didn't wake me up screaming or anything, so I thought it was fine. But in the morning, she was doing a lot better in the morning. But she told me that she saw one last thing that night.
Really?
And she said that she was laying on that rollout bed, and our front window, we normally keep the blinds closed, but we leave about a foot at the bottom, like open, and then we had like a lamp that was on. Whether we were home or not, we did that at night, so it looked like someone was home to deter burglars.
Yeah, no,
that little bit of window open to let the light out.
Yeah.
She was laying on that pull-out bed, and something ended up pulling her attention towards that little like foot of window. Looks out front, and she said that she saw like pale, blotchy legs standing, just like right outside that window, like it wanted to get in, but it couldn't.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. And
wow.
I guess it really couldn't get in because at that point,
wow.
From there, basically we called her grandparents.
Yeah.
Told her that. Well, frankly, we told her everything because her grandma's a big time Christian, and she. Gotcha.
Yeah. No.
She wouldn't question.
Sure.
And oh my God, her grandparents were so mad at her dad. They were already mad because they were her mom's parents.
Right.
They didn't care for him. But when they found out about him leaving her alone, and they're like, "You've left her alone with a demon."
Oh my God. Oh man.
So needless to say, she did actually end up moving in with her grandparents.
Did
after
she?
That. Yeah.
And now, ever since, was there any other issues or?
That she never really brought it up. I think she said that she had a couple of nights where she felt like eerie, but it was the same thing with her grandparents' house. It was a very secure home. It was lots of love in the house, stability, so it wasn't vulnerable. It's a different story for a different time, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't the last I personally saw of this entity. One time in the future, I ended up being away at college, and I think it came back for me, but that's a whole nother thing.
We'll maybe do a part 2 of this on this thing. Wow. That is, so have you had any contact with her since, or is this something that, you guys moved apart or anything like that? I mean, is she okay?
Yeah. No, she moved on. It didn't like hang over her. It's one of those things. I'm obviously down in Arizona now.
Yes.
She's in Washington.
Yes.
We grew up, we went away to college, we grew apart. It's just natural.
Yeah.
But last I heard, I think she's married now and living a normal life. So it's not
everything's back to normal.
Yeah, I think it was just the perfect storm because she was caught in that situation from that divorce, and she had a lot going on, and something must have just been passing through and was like, oh, easy prey.
And that's what I was going to ask on. I was like, when the manifestation, same kind of thing. The manifestation kind of comes from the Warrens type of demonology side of things that I've studied and whatnot. But it's the same thing. But it's, why was that there? What attracted it there? Or was it always there and this brought it out? Or was it, like you said, something passing through and just like, oh, look at what's over here, I feel the negative energy. I can prey on this, So that's, wow.
I'm not entirely sure to this day, but considering that it was the first and last time anything like that happened, I think it was just a crime of opportunity.
It could have been. Yeah, absolutely. Which is scary. Look, the power of positivity is a big thing. I tell people that all the time, especially if you feel, because I hear people talking all the time at the store or whatever, and they'll go into, say, our oddities tune, which is a lot of heat in that oddities tune. I call it heat. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of heavy stuff going on there. And when people feel brushes, they feel chills, they feel something bad, I start feeling sick in there, I ask them, I'm like, what's, I don't ask them what their home life's about, but is there anything, you going through anything or anything like that? Because sometimes that will attach. It'll feel that negativity, like, this is it, So I wonder, that's interesting. What a story. Holy hell. So, so crazy. Well, thank you for sharing this, by the way. So this is great. So, guys, well, I guess you can follow Katie, Madame Macabre on Instagram, right? Or your socials.
I'm Madame Macabre from YouTube. For years, I was narrating scary stories.
Oh,
so
wow,
I guess
look
it's
at this.
only right that I've had some myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also compose creepy music.
Yeah.
And then, on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere, I'm just Madame Macabre.
There you go. Follow her and listen to some more creepy stories. This is be good. And you got some writings coming out as well.
Oh, for sure. I'm aiming to get a book of scary stories out for October.
How about this?
Yes, it's going to be something that's all ages friendly. I do a lot of writing that's like more intense for adult readers. I wanted something that is more family friendly. So it's kind of like mid-level, like tweenage, but it's going to be called Don't Open the Door, Scary Stories and American Folktales.
Okay, I'm all in. This is amazing. Okay, this will be great. I can't wait till it comes out. And the guys back there too, follow her, buy the books, check these things out, and there'll be some more scary stories coming from Katie here shortly. So.
Oh, for sure. If they want to hear it, I've got far too many.
That's awesome. All right, guys, thank you for listening to another episode of the Terror Files.